Hey, it's Darryl Russell here. Welcome back to another episode of The Lion's Show. And in this episode, I'm sitting down with my good friend Armando Saenz, and we're discussing how he's kind of changed his business over the last year. So if you don't know Armando already, he did an interview with me around give or take a year ago, and he shared how he's doing around $35,000 to $45,000 per month from his SEO agency, which is pretty damn impressive. So over the last year though, he's massively changed his business. And that's all because of one realization, that he was working his ass off. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but he remembered that the reason he got into this business was to spend more time with his family, to have ultimately more freedom. And instead of that, he was working 12 hours a day, non-stop, going for it, managing his clients, and basically doing all the work for his clients. So over the last year or so, it's kind of been shifting his business to the point where he can have more freedom in his life and actually enjoy the money he's making on top of just making the money and working his ass off all the time. So we're going to discuss like how exactly he did this and how you can do the same. So if you're starting out right now, yes, it's cool, you can go out there and make 30, 40K a month doing what Armando did before, sure, but you don't want to work 12 hours a day, have no life, and just basically create a job for yourself, right? You want to have some freedom, you want to enjoy some time with your friends, your family, to do whatever it is you want to do. So that's what Armando's done now, and in this interview, we're kind of breaking down how exactly he did that, the fundamental differences in his company now and back then, and really the change in his thinking that kind of allowed him to be able to basically have more freedom in his business rather than him doing absolutely everything himself. So that's what we're discussing in this interview today. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get straight into it. Enjoy. Armando, hey man, thank you for coming back on the show. Around 50 episodes later, it's great to have you back for a part 2 here.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Glad to be back.
So for anyone that missed the previous episode or the video series you put together or doesn't know who you are or anything yet, do you want to introduce yourself and explain like who you are, like what it is you do?
Yeah, well, my name's Armando, and I own a digital marketing agency here in Houston. I've been doing search and digital marketing for, I started my agency, I think, back in 2013, but I've been in business development and marketing for well over like 9-10 years now.
Nice.
Did a lot of work for a large corporate 500 company, a large Fortune 500 on the business development side. So I'm very much a process guy. We hooked up years ago, and we've always sort of networked and connected since then.
Yeah, it was probably 2014 maybe even 2013. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a while. I still remember when you formed Lion's Eel, the group.
Yeah. Yeah, you were like the first 10 members. I'm pretty sure, actually, that I did like zero advertising. I think it was you and some other members that basically shared it in other places, which made it what it is today. So thank you for that.
Man, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I started in a bunch of places because I was active, and I still am active in a bunch of groups. But this one had some potential, and the stuff that you were sharing and doing anyways was pretty cool. So it was well worth the share.
I appreciate it, man. So actually, I remember back, whatever it was, about 2014, I believe. And when we first met, I remember you were sharing like tutorials or just recordings, basically, or you were doing cold calling all the way back then. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's right. I shared, I think it was like 2 or 3 cold calls that I did locally. And I'm not a very big fan of them. I wasn't back then, but, I sort of did them just because they still work, and they work then, they work now, and I just kind of wanted to share my process with people. Sometimes I find that if you do that, others will look at it and they don't realize that it's not that scary. It's not as scary as it is. So yeah, it's been a while since those cold call videos. Yeah.
Was that mostly like a mindset thing for you, just to like get yourself over that fear and just put yourself out there?
Yeah, it's definitely a mindset thing. I think we've spoken about mindset, ever since I've known you, and you know how. Like 90% of everything that we do is sort of mindset, and so in a way, making those recordings were good because it gets them out there to people who are maybe getting started and might be scared or might be thinking how does this situation get handled, and on the other hand, they're good for me because I get to play them back and I get to see how I handle that and how I sort of came across. So it's both a training for me
Yeah.
and opportunity for someone else to listen in.
No, I love that. Actually, my agency guy, I'm like, hey, record every single call you do, listen back to it and review it, because you pick up so much. It's kind of horrible. I don't know about you, but for me, I really struggle to listen back. I don't like it, but you learn a lot from it.
Yeah, I don't like to listen to them myself. I hate the sound of my own voice, but
Everyone does, yeah.
yeah, I catch myself like removing the ums and the likes and sort of in my own head thinking through the conversation and how I'm going to handle things. And
Yeah,
after about like 4 or 5 times of doing anything, whether it's the video or the calls, you really get into your element. You become more comfortable.
absolutely. All right, man, so I'm curious then. We chatted around a year ago. That's the first ever episode. I was probably very bad at interviewing then, so I appreciate you coming on and being a good guest for me. What has changed since then?
Ah, man, pretty much everything's changed. My business has gone through a lot of change and a lot of evolution, I would say. Even the services that I offered at one point, I was sort of all over the place, offering everything and anything to everyone when I first started. And at the time that we spoke, I was sort of narrowing down what I did for folks and who I did it
Yeah.
for. And I've sort of gotten even better at the sort of pre-qualifying or qualifying piece of it. So
Okay.
I've scaled back, but I've grown. I don't think anybody really goes into business thinking that they want to work 100 hours a week. That's the reason I did it. I wanted to have more time. I wanted to buy myself time to do things with my kids and my family and all
Yeah.
these things. And so throughout the year, I've sort of been really picky of who I work with and that whole selection process. I went from really offering a bunch of different services to really having to say no a lot, and that
Okay.
felt great. That felt really saying no to people. No, I can't work with you. No, you're not in my price point. No, we can't do this for you. But also, my entire business has taken a more holistic approach, where I do a lot of SEO still for clients, but I don't really necessarily take on new business unless it's really solid referrals from my existing clients.
Okay.
I've gotten really good at picking clients that want to grow within their field and their business, so they want to open multiple locations and have a plan to open multiple offices and multiple clinics across the span of a year, 2 years. And so
Is
it's
that
like
a dog in the background?
my dog is in the background. And actually, I'm surprised you're picking this up because, like, I'm in my office and he's in the backyard, and
Oh,
I
wow.
can barely hear him, but I guess you can hear him pretty loud.
It's cool.
Um,
It's cool.
yeah. So I've gotten really good at picking partnerships with companies that are themselves looking to grow, and so I've gotten a very smaller client base, but a more consistent and a higher paid client because of it. So I'm working less, making more, with working less. And so, I've gone through an evolution where I've viewed everything as a holistic thing in my business. SEO is sort of a vehicle, but still the thing that people want are the results, the leads, the sales, the transactions, all
Yeah.
that. SEO is just sort of, one piece of that, one vehicle, and so with that in mind, the selling process has even become easier because
Interesting.
I've used that verbiage, a lot in what I'm pitching. So a lot of transformation has happened, I still take on one-off clients here and there. I still do like one-off things.
Yeah.
And I still have clients where I enter an agreement with them and I have them on retainer for maybe 6 months, and it's not a forever thing. There's an end to the billing cycle. And that's worked out really well for me as well. So a lot
Cool,
has
man.
changed in a year.
I'd hope so. I'm curious then. So would you say that, say over the last year or slightly before that, like your revenue was going up massively, but you're also like putting a lot of time into it. Like it got like a lot of time.
Yeah, it was a lot of time. A lot of my time was spent really on the management side of things, but
Okay.
also on the technical side of things. Even though I did have, and I still do have VAs, but I brought a guy here locally now who helps me do that, and he sort of handles all the technical side of things. And really, I try to take a step back in my business and really
Yeah.
become the person who needed to do the one thing that was going to make me take me to the next level. That's really what my focus became. How do I formulate that? How do I become? How do I do and figure out the thing that is going to take me to the next level while not having to have my time occupied by all these little technical things that I could really outsource or have an in-house person do.
Okay.
So that was a shift in mindset as well.
What was the thing to take you to the next level?
Even the thing is always sales. It is always relationship building. It is always that. It is always meeting people. It is always talking to somebody and understanding their business, understanding where they're coming from, understanding their problems, understanding their pain points, and making sure that they understand that you're the solution to that. That is the only thing that will move forward, that'll move anybody else forward. Because without that, you just have a hobby, very expensive hobby. It focused my energy and everything on that, building those solid partnerships and getting introduced from my previous good clients to their friends who had businesses who were solid clients, who could become solid clients. And that's how I was able to scale back and still grow, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So you're not trying to turn it into like a lifestyle business where you can work a couple hours a day. You still want to work a lot, but you also don't want to be massively stressed out with everything. You want to grow while still being able to step back a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I want to be the guy who's in charge of my business.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time because that book has such a big influence on everybody. The image, it keeps coming back. But I wanted to be that guy, and I couldn't be that guy if I was building PBNs, if I was building, review funnels, if I was building all these different things and still managing my people and managing the clients. I couldn't be that guy, so I had to scale back and just sort of focus on the one thing that really couldn't be outsourced, or I should say I didn't want to outsource it, which relationship building, talking to clients and making sure that their answers were met, and then my people knew exactly what they needed to do based on the training. So that's been a big change for me.
I like it, man. That's a awesome progression. So let's talk about pre-qualifying then. I just got off a webinar like 47 minutes ago, so not long, an hour ago, and I asked people on it who here has had a bad experience with clients, and I'd say pretty much every single person who was responding said yes. So how do they avoid that happening, or at least avoid it happening as much as they possibly can?
Yeah, so before I answer that, you're right. I remember still firing my first client. It was a pretty big account. It was like $5,000 a month, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I couldn't deal with the phone calls, and I couldn't deal with the distrust issues of why isn't this happening fast enough. I just couldn't deal with all that, and I ended up firing that guy. So to anybody who's ever dealt with a bad client, I'd much rather not work with somebody who is like that. I'd much rather not have that money and have my sanity, because I can't get my sanity back. I can always make money.
And they bring you down, right? Like it stops you from getting more clients.
Yeah, like this guy, I remember, man, like I would hear the phone ring and it was them on the phone, and it would completely destroy like my entire week. Like I was down, I was like, in a bad place, like, oh, this guy just ruined my whole week by even calling. And so I just, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it at times. It's better to just let them go and focus your energy on growth.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question, the way I pre-qualified is that there's a book. It's called Ask.
Ask. Ryan Levesque.
Yeah. And that book is phenomenal. That process is incredible. And through that process, I was able to sort of implement a lot of his teachings and basically sort of create a process for picking which clients I'm going to work with and who I'm not going to work with. Again, following this whole holistic type of approach, but still having some hard some hard things. Now, the way I qualify things, because I'm a process guy, I like to see everything drawn out on a whiteboard with, arrows and everything. It
Okay.
basically came with, I had two types of clients, Group A and Group B. Group A is the kind of client that is not aware that they need marketing services. These are the guys that will tell you, I've grown my business for the past 30 years with flyers and my truck wrap, and everything is fine.
Yeah.
It's leave-in marketing. I don't think SEO is going to work. I don't think Facebook's going to work. I still believe word of mouth is the best. Go knock on doors, blah blah blah. But if you hook me up for free, I might go ahead and take you up on your offer, and then I'll let you prove me wrong, right?
Yeah.
There's that client, and then there's client B, who has a marketing budget, who understands that everything is about marketing, who understands that without that piece of it, their business doesn't grow. They understand what needs to happen. They just don't know how to make it happen, and they want some help with it.
Yeah.
So very distinct people, right? And working with client A is a nightmare, and working with client B is nirvana. And yet so many people are here trying to convince a business or a business owner that SEO works or that they need marketing. And so I basically put these two people into a bucket, and I said, if anyone even gives me a slight signal that they're in the A bucket, I'm going to waste time of mine. I'm just going to politely excuse myself and just say that we are not a right fit for them, and move about our business.
I like it.
Really how I categorize, anybody that comes to me. Anybody that comes to me, I ask them a series of questions, and then I put them in bucket A or bucket B, and then based on that, we move forward or we don't.
What about Mr. Beginner out there that's just getting started, and he's speaking to someone, he knows that the guy's going to be a total pain in the ass to deal with, but it's $1,500 a month and he's broke. Does he suck it up and take it, or does he think positively and think if I turn down this guy, it gives me more opportunity to get another client?
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one, right? Because on one hand you take money, on the other hand, it's your sanity. And the old me would have said, yeah, take it, work with this guy, and then trade up. The new me says, don't even bother with this guy. If you already know in your mind that they're going to be trouble, and they've already given you all the indications that they're going to be trouble, they're even flaking at $1,500 or $1,000 per month.
Yeah.
They're questioning your integrity, whether you can say you can deliver what you're going to deliver. They're going to be a pain. This is the kind of person that even if they sign on the dotted line, is going to take 100% of your time and energy, and will prevent you from growing. You will be stuck at $1,500 for 6 months. But if you never start with them, you may scale up to $20,000 in the same 6 months, focusing on the right kind of client.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say, as hard as it is, as hard as it may seem, stand your ground and express the power of no. Just say no. I can't do this. It's not worth my sanity. It's not worth my time.
I completely agree. I'm sure some people are going to think, oh, it's easy for them guys. They're already doing pretty well. But no, it holds you back, and it can stop you getting opportunities that you could have got if you said no to them.
Yeah, it's relative, right? Because the word easy, it's relative, right?
Yeah.
It's easy for somebody who's been doing it for a long time to say it's easy. Just it's easy for somebody who's a master chef to cook up a meal, but if you've never cooked before, it almost seems impossible.
Absolutely.
But you gotta think about the long-term game and your sanity and your mindset and everything else. It is crushing for a beginner to land a client who's a pain in the ass from the get-go. They may not continue. They may end up getting fired from that client anyways, or fired
Very
from
true,
them.
actually.
They may never continue. They may give up because of that. So I would always turn them down no matter what.
That's a good point. So what's the opposite spectrum? Because we see a lot of this in the groups where people hate clients. They're like, no, never do that. Just build your own sites, do affiliate marketing. What's the opposite spectrum? What's it like working with a good client? You get several good clients and it's really fun working with them. How does that work out?
So it's more of a relationship. It's more of a marriage kind of. You know, my clients
Okay.
that I work with, they're fairly large. These are guys that have clinics. They have planned to expand and build multiple locations across an entire city or an entire state or even many states across like a year or two. So they're continuing this growth. These kind of clients are very
Okay.
involved in decision making, but they're also completely hands off. You're basically, you become an extension of their business, and they trust you as their advisor, as their marketing guy, that you're going to make the right decisions, that you're the expert in this field. But yet they still want to make certain decisions and say, I want to break into this market, or I want to go aggressively after this tactic that you said would bring us a little bit better return, and then roll with it. So they become very partner-like as opposed to a client-customer type of relationship.
I like that. And your requirements, you said you're looking for someone that is, firstly, believes in marketing already, and secondly, is expanding, growing fast.
Yeah, and I ask some questions. I ask questions like, why, for example, I asked a question in the beginning process when we speak, and I say, why is it that you decided to contact me, or such and such gave you a referral from me? Why is that right now you're contacting me, and what is different about now that was a year ago in your business or 6 months ago that you decided that you needed to reach out to somebody now?
I love it.
And
Just
and the answer
pain
to
point.
that question, yeah, it's very powerful, because sometimes they'll say, well, I tried this before and it didn't really work. I still don't think it works, but I want to give it another shot. That is category A.
Yeah.
Right? They have already decided in their head that it doesn't work. Something's telling them, call somebody else to see if they can prove you wrong. Right?
Yeah.
They've already decided it doesn't work, right? And so the other side of that is I hear is something that goes like, well, here's the deal. We didn't need to do any of this before because we were very small, but now we're in expansion growth, and we want to grow over the next year. We have plans to grow, ABC services, and we need help from somebody who knows this side of the business to help us grow. We have a marketing budget. That's why we contacted you. So
Yeah.
A and B, right? B knows what they want. They know they have a marketing budget. They believe in this. They're just really asking for somebody to help them out with it. And that's a much better client. So there's a series of questions that I ask that sort of kind of guide them through the path. And then I have a set price. Obviously, I let them know this is my price, and I don't do like, oh, that's too expensive. What can we do for half? I don't do that. I start at
Yeah.
a very minimum, and then we go up from there. If you're cool with that, we can continue this conversation. And once you put them in bucket B from the very beginning, that price isn't really an issue for them, because they don't really care. They're just looking for the right person to help them out.
I like that, man. I agree completely. I remember actually one of the very few clients that I still work with personally today from years ago when I got them. When they came to me, they're a startup, which is generally people say, oh, don't work with startups. There's one of the exceptions I made. They're a brand new startup. And they came to me and they said they used to work for another company and they started to do it on their own. And the company they work for were crushing it with SEO. And they believed in SEO 100%. They knew 100% that it'd work. They just wanted to know if I was the right person to help them out. I showed them what I can do. They signed up easily, and the easiest client ever. I speak to them like once every 3 to 6 months or less, to be honest, because they believed 100% in SEO before. I didn't have to sell them SEO. They knew what they wanted. I just had to convince them I could help them do it.
Right. And that's what I think is a big difference. That's what I see a lot of people trying to do. And I'm in the groups lurking and answering questions sometimes, and I hear the same question come up all the time. What do you say to a client who tells you this may not work? What do you say to a client who tells you they don't believe that SEO works?
Yeah.
Hey, they're giving you a glimpse into the future, into their mind right now. They already convinced that it doesn't work. I am not here to convince you that it does work. I'm here to work with somebody who knows that it works, that needs my help.
I think we spoke about this a year ago on the last episode about our mindset when we're like, hey, like here's our minimum pricing. Here's what we offer. if this is of interest to you, then let's get started and I can get you some results. If not, hey, no worries. I can recommend you someone else. It's cool. You can go somewhere else. It doesn't matter. Like that, like abundance mindset, right?
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's hard. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard
Yeah.
to change that mindset. And you got to work on it every day. Every single day is a mindset thing. You got to get up and know that what you're putting out there and the work that you're doing in an honest way, and you're putting out the best service that you can possibly put in the best interest of your clients. And that's the kind of mindset you have to be able to charge higher prices. Otherwise, if you're not confident in what you're doing, then you're going to buckle. You're going to say, well, okay, I'll do it for $250 if this guy's doing it for $500.
Yeah.
And then you get all these inconsistencies, right? Some guys are like, oh, I only charge $99 a month, and then another guy charges $39 a month, and then you got all these crazy pricings because of that.
Yeah, sure. Let's put a name on it. Let's call it the Armando Method. And let's say what you're doing today is the Armando Method. So first up, you want to categorize, like, there's A and B. There's the people that are a pain in the ass, basically, and the people that are easy to deal with. They understand marketing. The people, and then also ideally they're a fast growth. And you get on the phone, you ask them some questions, like, why are they speaking to you today? Is any other examples of questions that you love to go through?
Yeah, I want to know like what their biggest struggle is with growing their business. So if they say,
okay,
I'm looking to grow in the next year, and then I ask them, okay, what's the biggest thing that is preventing you from growing to that goal, or what is the biggest obstacle that you're having with having to grow that? A lot of times you'll discover that it's not really SEO at all. It might be sales. Their sales team doesn't really function right. Maybe they have weak scripting or something like that. But they'll tell you straight up, like, we're so busy doing this, and we need help in this department and this other item, and this person is in charge of this, and they can't really handle it. And it turns out that it's a time management issue. So then your angle becomes, hey, I am the guy that can manage that time for you, because I'm not really I'm on your payroll, but I'm not, like, in your office. So I ask, why they contacted me. I ask what their biggest struggle is with that, and then I ask what their goal is. What do you want to get to, and what does this thing look like? If you could wrap your goal up and put a bow on it under the Christmas tree a year from now, what would that look like to them, to you? And then they're just like wide open. Oh, this is what this would allow me to do. This is what ideally I would have X amount of employees, and I would have this and that. And so you get to know right away what their real pain is, the real pain point is, and how you can either solve that or not solve that. And so the other thing that's key with that is that I'm providing usually one service for one person at a time. I'm not doing search and then Facebook advertising and then review funnels and all these different things. I'm providing one service for you at one time.
Okay.
If when we get to the point where that is refined, then we can start looking at other things. But I will not take on like 4 or 5 different things. I'm not going to be the guy that does, your AdWords and this other stuff all at once.
Yeah.
And fail at everything. So I let them know straight up, hey, we work on this thing, we knock it out of the park, and once we've got this thing knocked out of the park, then we look at, strategy B, or I can help you outsource strategy B to some people that I know they can work on it at the same time, obviously if you've got a good budget.
Okay. So, how does the call end? How do you tell them like what your minimum pricing is, and how do you proceed from that call basically?
It's a pretty straight transition for me. Usually I let them know exactly on the call what's going to happen, whether I can help them or not. And then I follow up immediately with them, and I say, I'm going to send you this proposal that's got everything that we spoke about and how this thing is going to be laid out, what we do at month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, and then when we collect payment and how we collect payment. And I use Petadoc, so everything is electronic. Okay. At a Pentadoc, and I send it to them. They e-sign it, and then they've got 3 days to accept the proposal, and they pay via Stripe, and then they get rebilled every 30 days until the extension of our contract. And usually I do, depending on the scope of work, it's either going to be a 3-month agreement or a 6-month agreement, or a 1-year agreement. And then after that, we revisit and decide, did we meet our goals? Did we get to where you wanted to go? And if so, we sort of revisit the relationship and say, okay, we're where we want to go. Do we continue to buy this service? And a lot of times I say, hey, we got you where you needed to be in this amount of time. You don't need our services anymore, but they still want to stay on as a retainer.
Okay, interesting. What are the services you offer? Like, not just SEO anymore, right?
No, so we offer search, we offer SEO, and we do Facebook ads. So SEO, okay. Facebook ads, and then the SEO also includes, everything. We do on-page and then off-page, but the SEO really includes just things that work. It's not just like, oh, we're gonna send like 5 links to you. It's not a link package.
Yeah.
It's really working truly on their SEO presence to make sure that they are where they need to be. So SEO and Facebook ads, and then we still offer those review funnel pages that we build out, and we do that for a very specific niche. So we only work with people in the health and wellness space, and that is it.
I like it. It helps, right?
Oh, it helps tremendously. If you pick one vertical to go work in, and you master that, and you understand the lingo, and you understand the vibe, and you start to understand what really helps these businesses grow, what is really pushing that industry forward, and where to pull back and where to give more, the next time you work with someone in the same industry, it's going to be really easy. You don't have to reinvent your process over again. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent the research. You just sort of take your methods and then plug them in another client. But if you're working with a whole bunch of different industries, it's kind of like you have to do that process all over again with each client.
Yeah.
So that allows us to scale a bit smoother, if you will.
I agree. So you mentioned something that is very different, I think, to how most SEOs are doing it. That most SEOs, they want to charge, say, I don't know what your minimum pricing is, but say a couple $1,000s. So they charge $2,000 a month, and they want that client to pay them for an eternity and never stop. And they don't really, after 6 to 12 months, maybe there's not really that much work to do anymore. It's just kind of retaining it. There's still a little bit, but not as much anyway. So you don't do that. You just charge, say, 6 months and then a lower fee afterwards to maintain it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so everything that we do is 3, 6, and 12 months agreements, and that's gonna be based on the analysis that we do from their site. Now, the other thing I should mention is that we want to be successful, right? So we only want to work with those clients who have the most potential to be successful. So if you came to me with a site that's all spammed because you bought a Fiverr gig, or you paid somebody $99 a month and they spam you with all like Asian or Russian links or something, and now you're coming to me seeking help, even if you are in category B, I won't work with you.
Sure. Because
it's an uphill battle. So we work with real businesses who have almost never done anything themselves. They need that. They know they need help. Well, they've done very little. They've outsourced very little, but nothing's been nasty out there on them. And so those have a high potential of getting ranked and getting to a good spot on the SERPs. And so what we do is, once we get to that, if it takes us 6 months to do, we do that 6 months and we say, okay, we've met all our KPIs, we've met all our goals, we've met everything that we said that we were going to deliver. We deliver up to 6 months. Here's how this works. Can somebody else come behind you and bump you? Yes. Can this stuff drop? Yes. If it's not maintained, yes, absolutely. But our agreement was for 6 months. We got to be. You don't need to move you don't need to pay us for an eternity. We can shift this budget to do another now form of traffic, maybe paid advertising or something else, or you can split this and say, you're going to pay me on a retainer anyway, so that I can keep an eye on this stuff and provide changes as I see fit, and as the industry changes, I'm here for you, making sure that you don't get bumped, or you can end it right now. And surprisingly, most of them will say, I'd rather not, and I'd rather just keep you on retainer, or why don't we do 50% on retainer so you can keep a good eye on this, and then we'll switch the rest to like another form of traffic or something like that.
Interesting, man. What made you make that shift? Because obviously beforehand, you charge them the same amount every month, then you're making more money. Ideally.
Yeah, ideally you make more money, but it was sort of again, I've transitioned so much into this whole self-discovery thing, and it was like, dude, would I like to pay a student loan for the rest of my life? The answer is no. Do I want to pay rent for the rest of my life? And the answer is no. Do I want that car note? No. I'm looking to build partnerships and relationships, and this allows me to really be transparent with them, and allows them to actually trust me enough to give me those solid referrals.
Yeah.
And through this entire process, obviously, I work with some that I've been charging for years, and they're happy to pay because they're constantly in growth mode, and they know that my process is ironed out. But others come to me and they say, I need help. I need to be able to do this. And then I look at them and I say, okay, look, maybe what you need is a map strategy. Your website's positioned well, but you're nowhere in the 3-pack. And here's what I see the opportunities. And so it's going to cost you, X amount of dollars, and we're going to aim for a 6-month goal of this. But know that after you've paid this money, if you're still not there in 6 months, it may take 8 months before you start seeing the results. But you're not going to continue to pay for that because you've already paid for that work.
Okay, so you're selling them that fixed package. So they sign up for, say, $2,000 a month for 6 months. You're actually selling them a $12,000 package. It's not like a $2,000 a month for the rest of eternity until we somehow manage to get you some results.
Right.
Okay.
So and the reason I'm able to do that is because, again, we take a look at their sites, and we work with clients who have a very high potential of getting ranked. And you know who these guys are, right? Somebody comes to you, they've been in business for 10 years, they've got a 10-year-old website, they're reputable, they've been published in medical journals, they've got links coming from Wall Street Journal, and a lot of solid EDU links that are legit because they've written their own articles. Yeah. They've never done any SEO before, but their site is completely clean, well written. It's like, all I need to do here is give it a little bump, and fix the technical issues, a lot of on-page and maybe a few off-page things, and then you're going to be where you need to be because your site is so strong and it's got so much trust that you're right there on the cusp,
Yeah.
So we cherry pick who we work with.
I like it, man. Cool. So you mentioned the name Holistic Armando. So there's Holistic Armando, there's Year Ago Armando. What's the difference? What's like the 3 big, big changes or realizations or something you've had over the last year?
Yeah, the biggest thing is really understanding the patterns and seeing where those opportunities are, and sort of being self-aware of the signals that are there when you shouldn't work with somebody.
Yeah.
Or signals that are there when you should work with someone. And so even within our agency, the things that we do, before I would say, it's going to be $2,000 a month, and I'm going to charge you for the rest of your life, and we're going to work towards this goal, and here's what we're going to do, and we're going to hammer the PBNs, and then you're going to rank. You're going to rank, because you will. And now I look at that and I say, okay, let's work on everything that's going on here. Let's take a look at the Google My Business. Do we need to have maybe more citations done, on this month? We still need some PBNs, but we need to be a little bit more careful with them. Maybe we need to reach out and do some actual guest posting or other things. So it's a combination of everything coming together as opposed to just one tactic. Even though PBN is still the core foundation, that is what works, and oftentimes that's all that's needed. So the holistic me now looks at things and says, okay, here's what is going to charge, here's what the whole package is going to be, here's sort of a time frame, here's what you can expect from us, the type of communication you can expect from us. Oh, and by the way, we want you to be involved in this process and not completely hands-on, because we'll need pictures of your staff, and we'll need bios, and we'll need maybe for you to approve content and other things along the way. And so that's what's really the biggest difference from then and now.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, like your ranking strategy, is it pretty simple then? Like, we always talk about this, like everyone overcomplicates it. Like for the people that are worried about it, how do you rank it in an overview sort of way?
Yeah, it's really simple. It's almost too simple, right? I take a look at what you got going on, and say somebody comes to me and they've got a 10-year-old site. They've been in business for 10 years. They've got a Google My Business listing, but it's not claimed. They maybe don't really have consistent NAP. They don't really have that many backlinks. If they do, they're coming from directories from like Yelp or something like that.
Yeah.
I do this, and first and foremost, we're going to attack the map pack. We're going to make sure that your NAP and citations are taken care of. We're going to do on-page, which is going to be huge. Those
Definitely.
things alone will give you a nice bump, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, before we do anything to your site, we want to take a look at your competitors. Who are the top 10 guys and what they're ranking for, how they're ranking for. We're going to analyze their sites, take a look at their backlinks. Can we get any of those strong backlinks that they're using on our site? Are they using donation links? You know, maybe they've donated to something. So we're going to go contact those people and say, hey, we noticed that you've got a section for sponsored ads or sponsored links.
Yeah.
And we put our link there, and we're going to point that. So everything that the competition on page one is doing that we can see, that we can snag, we'll go ahead and snag, right? We take a look at the competition's links, and we see what isn't, and we steal whatever we can, basically go after those same sites, and then we start to drip PBNs. Along with and then we really go after these sort of informational type key terms that are going to bring traffic to their website, because we want traffic, and then that is going to help us, give us a nice boost. And really for local clients, that's about as deep as I go, man. I don't get crazy with, like, you know, edu links and, you know, like 10 iframe strategies. I don't get crazy like that.
Yeah.
It's just clean and on an as need basis, and a lot of times they're just going to outrank whoever's, you know, on page one because of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like you said, right? A good client is like almost the perfect site to rank. Like, they've already got existing traffic, they've got brand signals, people searching their name online and stuff like that. They hopefully have a good site already, an aged site. They've got a brand name is established. They've got citations and stuff like that. Like, it's super easy.
It's like the perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of cherry picking in the beginning by asking them questions and taking a look at the research and everything. But if you tell me you've got a budget and you understand marketing and everything is great, and then I look at your site and it's like spam because you hired a cheap SEO, I'm not gonna work with you. You know, I'm just not gonna do it. I can't deliver what I say. I've had situations where a guy came to me, and he said, he was a doctor, and he's like, you know, I need to rank, you know, I need to be in here, my competition is killing me, I've got a budget, blah, blah, blah. Fell in category B. I took a look at the site. It's like, I couldn't believe it, you know, like, this dude's been published in like Mayo Clinic, he's been published in like big publications, he's written books, he's got literature out there that he's written research papers and everything. And what it came down to was his site really sucked. It was like HTML site that was not optimized on page at all. When we redid the entire optimized, I didn't even change the site's, I left it HTML because why change it? We just optimized it, and he shot up. Like he already had everything that he needed. He just was missing this one piece. There was no reason to send PBNs to him. He was getting trust from like major publications. There was no reason to do it. I just reached out to a couple of those articles and I said, hey, can you change the anchor text here because the link is wrong? And those guys, they did it. You know, they were more than happy to do it, and that shot him up. You know, fairly easy.
It's cool, man. And he's happy, right? He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you use PBNs or anything. He cares that he gets rankings and some money.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He saw his map pack. You know, he saw his positioning in the maps shoot to #1. We worked on a review strategy. I said, you need to be proactive with this, because he had one rating, 1 star, that was like a 3 from like maybe unhappy client, patient. I said, let's work on our review strategy. Here's what you need to do. Here's what your staff needs to do. Here's how this is going to work. And then within 2 months, he had, I think, 56 or something
Nice.
Reviews organically from his patients, and him just asking. And it wasn't crazy, right? I said, I need you to ask. And I need you to do
Yeah.
a little post, this little card that has a direct URL to your review funnel, and just ask your happy patients, will you leave me some honest feedback? And people would go on there and do it from their cell phones. That was enough to from where he needed to be bumped. So it's not anything crazy, right? It's just doing what needs to be done for the right client.
That's awesome, man. Final couple questions, then we'll wrap it up. By the sounds of it, you like to read. So is there like 2 or 3 books you could think of that were really helpful in the way you think and built your business as it is today?
Yeah, for sure. So Ask, Ryan Levesque.
That one, yep.
The E-Myth, if people haven't already read it, go read that book. Scrum, there's a book called Scrum, The Art of Getting Twice Done in Half the Time, I think. That's a very good book, because it's a project management book, and it's about systems. And in the book, they talk about whenever you focus on one project, that project, I don't know if you've ever read that book. I can't remember
No, I
the name
haven't.
of it. What they call this theory, right? It's not really a theory, it's practice. When you focus on one project, your attention is 100% on that one project.
Sure.
So when you focus on 2 projects, you would say you've got 50% attention on one and 50% on the other. But that's not the case, because there's a time that you're switching between project A and project B. That takes about 30% of your attention. So that only leaves 20%. Eventually, the more projects you have open, the more time you're spending on switching tasks than you are on completing a project, and that ends with you having nothing completed. Which is, in this industry, because it's interesting because people switch. Oh, I'm going to go after affiliate. Oh, I'm going to go after clients. Oh, I'm going to go after Amazon. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to use PBNs. Now I'm going to use Web 2.0s. Now I'm going to use triple hat trick. And so what ends up happening is they complete the one thing they started with, and that leaves them, like, after 6 months or a year, sort of hanging. So read that book, Scrum. That's a very good book. And then another book that I recently read that was really good is 21 Refutable Laws of Leadership. That is a book, to read. So I would read that book.
Is that helpful for managing a team?
That book is about, yes, it's about managing, and it is about the concept of levels of leadership, and how lower level leaders oftentimes are in higher positions of leadership where they shouldn't be. So they never really get the respect of the team, because a leader who's, say, number 8 will never follow a number 7.
Sure.
Because there's certain characteristics that you never really want to. If you're ahead of somebody, you never really follow them. So that's a very good book to understand about where you're at personally, and you can say, wow, okay, I'm like number whatever, and the people that I work with are like above me. And no wonder they don't respect, no wonder they can't get this concept right, because I'm lacking in this, or I need to up my game on that. So that's a pretty good book.
Cool, man. Just to give some people some useful links and stuff like that, any tools or anything you use to manage your clients, or something that you couldn't run your business without?
Doc, I use that for all my proposals and invoices and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of key, because I see this in the groups all the time. Yeah, I know you see it. Does anybody have a proposal template they could share? Dude, even if I gave you mine, it wouldn't be. You couldn't use it, because you tear it apart and add your own stuff to it. So PandaDoc allows for, you can be on the phone with somebody, on the phone, and they could say, oh, I'm ready, I'm ready, send me the information, and then just send, and right on the phone, they get that PandaDoc email, they can sign from the phone and everything, electronically.
Yeah.
So Cantalk is a good one. Um, I use Surf Fox for my rankings.
Classic.
And you know, and aside from that, I use Trello as like my team management board
Okay.
to organize my boards and my VAs and the work that happens. And aside from that, there really isn't much. Lead pages. I use lead pages. Um, I use Get Response as my email client
Cool.
for no particular reason, really. It's not a plug on them or anything. I just started with, there was no reason to switch, so that's who I use. And aside from that, that's it.
It's not about the tools, right? It's just about getting out there and building some relationships and meeting some businesses.
That's it. That's really what it comes down to. If you want to go after clients and you want to have a good client base, you need to go out there and meet people. It's all a numbers game, right? If you meet 100 people and one of them says yes and 99 say no, well, then now you have a baseline. And you know that for every 100 people you meet, one's going to say no. So if you want to, get to 10 clients a month, well, you need to meet X amount of people, right?
Yeah.
And the more people you meet, the easier things become, and eventually you start closing more. You start getting more yeses. So it's really, everything is a numbers game.
Absolutely. I think you're also one of the guys that has the same sort of belief with me, is that we're in this business to help people. We want to make money, sure, but we're in this to help people. That's how we make our money. We help our clients. So even if someone isn't willing to spend money with us, or I should say isn't ideal to spend money with us, we still give them some advice and stuff and just try and help people out in general, because that's how we grow our business. That's what we do.
Yeah, for sure. There are people that fall, like I said, in category A. I don't work with them. And I usually give them what they need to do. I usually say, hey, you know enough to know what you know. And that's why you're in category A, because you got yourself in trouble because you know just enough to get in trouble. And I give them, I just give them my advice. I say, here's what you need to do. I would focus on this. And I think, you have enough knowledge to have yourself do it or your team do it. There's no need to hire services. Just knock yourself out. Really, it's about the relationships.
Absolutely, man. Cool. Well, I appreciate you joining me today. It's been fun. Where can people connect with you if they want to message you some questions, I don't know, check out your site or whatever else?
They can, I'm in the group. I'm in Lionzeal. I'm active in there. So they can post some questions in there. If that's cool, I can answer them in there. I don't really have a blog. I don't have, maybe one day I will. I have
just call it the ArmandoMethod.com.
Something, right? One day I'll get around setting all those things up, but for now I don't. So if you're in the group, just hit me up there, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions.
Man, thank you for joining me again. It's been really cool catching up and seeing how it's kind of changed over the last year, which, as expected, has changed a lot, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right, man. Thanks again for joining me, and hope you guys got a lot of value out of the episode, and I'll see you guys next week.